Grants, mates. Hey, hope you're doing well. Just running through some feedback on the run that you sent through, mate. So good to get both angles. Appreciate that. Drop this down. So yeah, main things that we're looking at from behind are foot positioning as you're hitting the ground. If we take the little kind of, I guess it's a white sticker or indentation in the middle there, we can get a good proxy of where the footfall is in relation to the hip. So you can see left leg lands underneath the hip pretty well, but that right leg wants to cross the midline just a little bit more. And then hip fall as you hit the ground, you can see just you start there, then end up pretty solid on that left. And as you hit there, you kind of lose that hip position a little bit more on that right side. So yeah, left looks a little more solid than right in at least what you sent me there. And that kind of stayed consistent. So that mid leg crossing the midline to me is just an indication of instability around the hip. So instead of being able to hold your hip position, the body seeks stability by just getting the leg across the body. I hope that makes sense there. And then the side on one, I know you said you've been working on some technical stuff around run positioning. You said maybe running in a little bit more lumbar extension, and I'll kind of add my 2 cents into why that may not be the best strategy for your OP hip stuff specifically. But yeah, we'll have a chat about it, mate. But yeah, as you see here, side on view, always good to see. You already identified the kind of the strike pattern. You can see if we took a line from where your hips are and your foot ground contact, it's very much out in front of the body. It's hard on a treadie, so don't know if that's exactly what would be happening on the road, but every time you hit the ground can only ever offer an opposite and equal reaction. So if we hit the ground out in front of the body, then the force is going to come back up this way. So it's a deceleration force, and you're going to get a bit of a jolt through the body, and then you're going to get a double peak in force as you then start to re-accelerate your center of mass over your foot. So good stuff on trying to get or clear up that, I guess. But there's maybe some other run drills that we could throw your way that would be helpful to try and promote a little bit more. Oh yeah, the sneaky side look. How are you, mate? And then, as we were talking about, you said that you were aiming to run in a little bit more lumbar extension, which you can definitely see that you are. But what that ends up doing is, I'll show you on old mate over here, we call this the stack, which is kind of like a pretty key concept that I like people to be able to wrap their head around, because when you understand this, then you understand how we can efficiently and consistently end up loading the body. So from this position here, mate, the stack is relative to, let's just say, pelvic floor and then diaphragm. If you run in more lumbar extension, what you end up doing is you end up orientating your hip socket or acetabulum closer towards the floor. And so when you land, especially with your leg out in front, you're more likely to compress the structures around the hip socket. Whereas if you can, so to speak, keep the water in the bucket, if you think about this as a little cup here, if you keep the water in the cup, then when you hit the ground, especially if it's underneath the body a little more so in that efficient pattern, then we can more effectively load the hip in a position that's probably not going to compress the structures around the hip as much. So being strong through here, not rigid like a block, you still want to be able to have good rotation through your T-spine and be able to access good range, but we want to be able to have good control over this hip position, because then by virtue of that we're going to load effectively where we want to on the hip girdle. So mate, hopefully that all makes sense. Have a watch and let us know what you think. But as I said, if that all sounds all right, I'll give you some maybe run drills that you can do pre-run or after you do your warm-up, just as part of repatterning some of the stuff we're trying to achieve. Yeah, have a good one, mate.